So it's on, it's happening, it's been officially announced in quite possibly the strangest fight of the year and one of the strangest fights for quite some time. Chris Eubank Jr. will take on Conor Benn on October 8th at the O2 Arena. If it weren't for the fact that their dads, Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, had a rivalry, then this fight wouldn't be taking place. There wouldn't be any interest in this fight either from the two fighters or from the fans. So when you take their dad's rivalry out of the equation and you just look at it as this welterweight contender taking on this middleweight contender who's kind of a vet now. Conor Benn is on the way up. Eubank Jr. is probably in the twilight of his career. And you think, again, their dad's rivalry aside, why on earth would these two fight each other? What's in it for them? For Eubank Jr., I think it's really more about money because he doesn't gain anything from this other than some type of personal satisfaction in beating the son of his dad's main rival. In terms of his career, in terms of his legacy, this doesn't mean anything beating a Conor Benn because, again, this is a welterweight. This is not a guy who is a champion or anything like that. This is not a guy who has established himself as an all-time great yet, and perhaps never will. We have to see how Conor Benn's career pans out. So for Eubank Jr., he's got nothing to gain but money here, at least as an outsider looking in. Whereas with Conor Benn, there's money, yes, but if he manages to beat Eubank Jr., it's a big feather in his cap. It's a weird feather in his cap, but it's a big feather nonetheless because he can say, hey, look, people are comparing me to Jerome Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, and a number of young welterweights on the rise. How many of them can say that they've beaten a middleweight? And a middleweight who's fought for world titles, a middleweight who's very durable and in great physical condition, you know? So for Conor Benn, there's an upside here. For Eubank Jr., not so much. And for the fans, what is in this fight here, apart from nostalgia? Is there something in Conor Benn's style that makes people think, should I say, that he has a realistic chance against Eubank Jr.? Are there chinks in Eubank Jr.'s armor that Conor Benn's style can exploit? Now, Eubank Jr. has been very successful against pressure fighters, guys who come at him, and that's how Conor Benn fights. But he hasn't fought anyone as fast as Conor Benn in terms of a pressure fighter before. He hasn't fought anyone who moves their head as well as Conor Benn when it comes to a pressure fighter. So this will be something a little bit different. And Conor Benn, even though he is undersized compared to Eubank Jr., his heart is massive. We've already seen that so far in his career. We've seen the aggression. We've seen the heart when he's had to get off the deck from being dropped and what have you. So yeah, he's got that. He's very tenacious and he's the kind of guy who you look at him and you think he'll go through hell and high water to win a fight. And I'm sure that'll be the case against Eubank Jr. And he might have to because Eubank Jr. again has the size advantage, stylistically likes fighting guys who come at him. So yeah, I guess there's intrigue there for the British boxing public. Chris Eubank Jr. is always in great shape, but I have to imagine Conor Benn is going to be more up for it than Eubank Jr. because he has to be, and also because he's younger. He isn't maybe as, I don't want to say Eubank Jr. is shop-worn because he hasn't really taken that much punishment in his career, but all those training camps can take it out of you. And he is older as well, isn't he? How old is Eubank Jr. now? Like 32? Something like that, 33? Conor Benn, I believe, is still in his 20s. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this news in the comment section below. It's official. Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, and of course it will be on DAZN pay-per-view. Eddie Hearn, for the longest time, was saying that pay-per-view was done, pay-per-view was over. And here we are, DAZN pay-per-view for a fight that isn't even for a world title. Can you imagine? This is two contenders going at it, and it's pay-per-view on DAZN. Is this the kind of thing that DAZN should be adding an extra paywall to? Because if you're a DAZN subscriber, you got to pay money on top of your normal subscription to get to watch this fight. Is that right? Should that be happening? I mean, at the end of the day, it's supply and demand. And if there is enough demand, then I guess they'll be able to pay the fighters what they are contracted to be paid and make profit on top. But it remains to be seen. And I've seen some people say that this fight is really what DAZN needed to keep themselves afloat in the UK because things are not going according to plan. So since they couldn't get the AJ Usyk fight, this is the consolation prize, something like that, for not getting AJ Usyk. So yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below about all the points I've raised in this video and about this announcement.